Welcome to the Noizze podcast, sponsored by Satanic Tea Company and brought to you as part of the Noizze Podcast Network. I'm Will, and you're about to hear a rundown of the start of our Albums of the Year series, where we chat to various different bands about their favourite albums of 2023, bands they want people to look out for in 2024, and then we talk about them and we chat about their plans. So this episode, in episode 1, what you're about to hear is me chatting to Sammy Urwin of Church Road Records and the incredible Employed to Serve, along with Nate from Church Road Signees Going Off, incredible hardcore band who just supported them on tour. And last but not least, all three of the wonderful Mountain Caller, again, Church Road Signees with a new record coming out in January. That'll be Elle, Max, and Claire. So that'll be what you're hearing. Do make sure, though, to give us a follow on Twitter at Noizze Podcast and Instagram at Noizze Podcast Network. The main site, we're all on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at Noizze UK. Just give us a like and a subscribe on YouTube. Be sure to listen wherever you get your podcasts, including Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you like. If you do fancy checking out our Spotify Essentials playlist or want to buy merch, links are in the bio. And if you're feeling as extra kind, if you could drop us a review on your platform of choice, we'd love that. It all helps more than you think. Enjoy. Yeah, so today I'm joined by the lovely Sammy of Church Road Records. How are you doing?
I'm doing well, thank you. All the better for speaking to you, Will, as
No, it's
always.
very kind of you. I obviously sound like I've been hit by a bus. It's just, embarrassingly, it's COVID in 2023.
I know, mate. Honestly, we're so over that now. Like that shit's so 2020.
That's what I've texted when I text my friends earlier and was like, "How embarrassing is this?"
I mean, surely there's something new on the scene now. Have we not got some variation on bird flu, some sort of flesh-eating disease, perhaps that's spreading like the plague?
Yeah, can we not get a better one? Or
Yeah,
can I just have a regular cold? That'd be great.
yeah.
Anyway, so we're here to chat about something a lot more fun, which is obviously with this year. That's kind of like last year, really. It's been a bit of a good year for heavy music.
Very much so.
So jumping straight into it, my first question for you is, what's your favorite record that's come out this year?
It's the easy choice for me this year. It is Black Medium Current by Dodheimsgard. For me, has stolen the show. That is my favorite record of the year. I mean, usually like there's obviously like standout ones, but I find it hard to kind of whittle it down, from like the top 3 or so. But that one I've played the most. That one was like, can't say my most anticipated album of the year because I didn't even know it was coming out. It just sort of appeared, and I was very, very excited about it because very much a fan of Dodheimsgard and sort of related bands like Virus and Vedsbuen Ender, which I'm sure I'm pronouncing completely wrong. Someone can correct me on that later. But yeah, that is my favorite record this year. It is absolutely fantastic, is the only way I can put it.
Yeah, I remember, Tris. He spoke to me about this one earlier in the year.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, I've still not had time to check it out.
How is your
It's
time, Will?
it's probably, let's say, it's probably up my street as well because it's a pretty. I'm kind of told it's a bit of a weird, bit of like an avant-garde experimental kind of record.
Absolutely. You'd be very, very correct with that assumption.
So, what sort of neck of the woods is it? Like, is it a black metal record in that sense,
Yeah,
or?
I mean, yeah, in essence, it's very much in the black metal world, but it's far more like esoteric than that. I mean, if like I definitely, if you were looking for an out and out like black metal record that is just like visceral and nasty and hate filled, then this record is not for you because this is far more proggy. This sits much more into the, not that it sounds the same, but people who are kind of into bands like Ulver or more the more latter enslaved, where black metal bands have kind of gone a bit more proggy and experimental, and it
Yeah,
sits in that world for sure.
fuck yeah. I'm a big fan of like modern enslaved, so I do definitely need to put the time in.
Oh, you'll like it for sure. I mean, yeah, and I'd recommend, like I said, like all the bands related to Dodheimsgard. I forget the drummers. I think it's the drummer. There's one key member who's in all of these bands, but he plays in a band called Virus, and then Vedsbuen Ender, which once again I'm sure I'm saying wrong, but they're fantastic bands to check out as well. And quite. I mean, that was a big part of why I was so excited when I saw like this album just sort of appeared. I can't even remember. There might have been singles. I can't recall, but it just seemed to be like, oh, here you go. Here's a new Dodheimsgard album, and I was just like, yes, this
This is what I wanted. Yeah.
is what I wanted.
If
And
you
I'm
had, oh, sorry, go on.
sorry. I was going to say it's kind of been a year like that all round for me, I must admit, because they're not. I must admit they don't come close to Dodheimsgard, but they're in my end of year list for sure. But the new record from Carne and the new record from Impetuous Ritual, both of which also bands I like very much, were also records that seem to just sort of be like, here you go. Like there was no sort of lead up. It was just sort of, yeah,
Yeah.
it is
The Carnate was a surprise drop. I remember that one.
for real.
Like
Yeah.
that was a very much a. I think we got. I don't even think we got 12 hours notice of it, if we got
No.
any at all. I think even on this side of the fence, it was literally like, "Hey guys, new Carnate's out today. Do you want to review it?" And we're like,
What? Yeah.
"Cool." That's a really really good record as well. That Carnate.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely love it. Spent many an evening walking around just listening to that, feeling super evil and weird. Yeah,
Yeah, scratches that itch on it. Now
it does. Yeah.
with the Dodheimsgard record, what would you say out of theirs? Like, if you had to pick a track, maybe two, if you know, which one would you say is like a standout for people to go away and make sure they listen to?
Very generic one to say, but I think the first track, which I think is called Et Smelter, but I need to check these things. Yeah, the first song, Et Smelter, is banging. There's a bit in that, funnily enough, where there's like this key bit that drops in like way into it because I think it's like 10 minutes long or something like that. But it's been like a very key influential bit on a new ETS song that we've written, which I thought might be interesting to say because I can't imagine anyone would necessarily listen to like Dodheimsgard and be like, "Oh, ETS love this." Obviously, you know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah, because even with obviously the direction you kind of taken since Eternal Forward Motion and going much more like classic metal, that's still worlds away from the most esoteric prog black metal.
Absolutely. And then not to turn the conversation too much to ETS, but with the new stuff, it's kind of like it's very much still that way inclined, but I feel like some of the weirder, well, I wouldn't say like super esoteric, but there's definitely a lot of things influencing the new stuff that is different from Conquering, but also staying very much within that ballpark. But steering away from me talking about myself and talking about Dodheimsgard, yeah, I don't know. It's a hard one. I mean, it is one of those records since every track is about 10 minutes long or so, and it all weaves together in one sort of perfect thing. I can only really say put the whole thing on and just. I mean, you'll work out within the first 3 minutes whether it's going to be for you or not. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Awesome. So Dodheimsgard's album of the year, or favorite record of the year, I suppose, is probably a better way of describing it. I'm always a bit wary of saying it's the best thing that came out this year.
Yeah,
it's your favorite. So the next bit I'd like to talk about is a band that you think people should be checking out in 2024. Now that can be a band that's already kind of like a bit known, but it's looking like they're poised for like huge things, like a big breakout moment, or just a band that really deserves, like, that's just getting way less attention than they deserve.
Right. So because I was thinking about this one, because obviously it's difficult being, in the realm of Church Roads and obviously wanting to, kind of push that. So I'm going to kind of lean towards that and pick a few bands specific to what's coming up next year. Okay. That, like you say, I feel have kind of got some sort of breakout moments coming ahead. And the first one I'm going to shout out is Graywave, who dropped 2 new singles this year, have a new release coming out sometime early-ish next year. Obviously, it hasn't been announced yet, so I'm not going to give too much away. But I feel, to be honest with you, they've done a lot of cool bits already, what with like, the Rebirth EP and the 2 singles they dropped this year. But I feel like next year with the stuff, having heard the material already, I think it's going to be a very interesting one for Graywave, and definitely a band if you've not checked out yet, then,
Yeah, I remember really enjoying that EP and the singles. And I saw them at the Black Heart, I think. Maybe last year at this point.
Maybe our 5th birthday show?
That would have been it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I know
I know Jess has been busy with Cauldron this year,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
I love that Cauldron record, but I am excited for more Graywave.
It's cool how Jess does Cauldron, which is like obviously like gnarly, sort of like beat down hardcore, and then also does Graywave, which is like very dreamscapey,
Yeah.
gothic.
I
Sick.
actually remember talking to her about this because I did like an introducing piece for Metal Hammer for Graywave, and one of the things we talked about is that link between hardcore and shoegaze, because
Yeah,
it seems like they're almost like two sides of the same coin, you know.
yeah,
And I think it's really interesting how opposite they are, but how easy bedfellows they are as well. I think that's really
yeah.
cool.
Yeah, I totally agree. It's become more of a thing. I feel like in modern times that people tend to be. It's like shoegaze, the more grungy side of things, and hardcore all seem to, as you say, kind of meld together. They
Yeah.
share a fan base there. I mean, if you're gonna get angry, you got to also get sort of sad and apathetic too at the same time, right?
Yeah, you got to chill out afterwards.
You need both sides of the coin. Yeah, you need something a bit more chill to listen to when you're getting the train home after the show.
Exactly.
Yeah. So yeah, Graywave would be my first shout. I have like sort of two or three. They're also playing 1st December at New Cross Inn for anyone in London. Actually, I don't know when this is coming out, so it might be after the fact. But hey, get in a time machine, go back, check that show out. After that, not a band that we're sort of working with, but Giant Walker is a band I'd really like to shout out because I think they're just an amazing band. And I mean, are you familiar with Giant Walker, Will? Or
Yeah, I heard was it early this year it came out, their record?
it was last year, I believe. It was.
God, it's been so long.
Yeah, I know. It's
What is
crazy.
time? No, I remember it's they're a prog band, no, it was really good.
Yeah, yeah, like prog, but like not that massive choruses are alien to the prog world whatsoever, but they're I don't know, it's kind of interesting. The vibe I got, other than obviously very much prog band, and you might think I'm weird for saying this because you won't hear the similarities whatsoever. But the two bands I thought of when listening to them was like a little bit of Palm Reader and a little bit of Boss Keloid in a way, and then other prog elements. But that was the kind of thing that kind of
Okay.
because prog metal is a weird one for me, right? Because there's a lot of like prog metal like I really really enjoy, but I feel like it can be one of those, I don't know, similar to a lot of subgenres like black metal or whatever. There's a lot of stuff that can sort of come out and it can kind of like merge into the background. But Giant Walker are very much, they've just got incredible songs. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
They're not only really sick players, like you have to go see them live if you haven't, because all of them are just absolute monster players. But the songs, I mean, the choruses are just fucking massive, like arena worthy, I would say.
Nice.
So I would definitely say check out Giant Walker if anyone listening is not familiar with them, because they are badass. If we still say that these days, I don't know.
Who knows?
Who knows? Um, and then a quick shout out for, it's always so hard because I feel like I'm forgetting something, but Mountain Caller obviously dropping a new LP in January, Chronicle 2 Hypergenesis, which is a massive record. I think people are going to go fucking like bonkers for it. And then we've got new releases, I believe, coming from Going Off and Inhuman Nature, bringing some more fiery riffs to the party.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I think two out of three definitely announced. I don't like the Inhuman Nature one is kind of like, I think it's, known about, but not formal.
Yeah, I feel kind of okay saying that because I feel like they're poised for. I mean, I'll be honest with you, I can't like. There's no set date for anything new.
Yeah.
I know, you know what I mean.
I get you.
Cooking away. They've always got something going on. So
For sure.
got to be keeping an eye on them.
Yeah. And just as not to, be too industry about it, but like that Mountain Caller record, I agree, is absolutely gigantic. And I'm really excited for people to hear that as of now, just over 2 months.
I know, it's crazy, right? It's anything in like 2024 still feels like a mile away, but you still got to be like, oh yeah, shit, it's right around the corner. But
it is somehow.
Yeah, I know. It happens every year, but still it surprises me. But yeah, that Mountain Caller record, like after the performance at Arctangent this year, and they've done like a lot of great touring this year with Ohms, just done some stuff with King Buffalo, going out with Urne, I think before the year is out. I believe that's in December.
Yeah.
There's a lot bubbling away because people know like what a great live band they are. Obviously, you know, the last LP and the last EP got a lot of like buzz around it. But as you say, this new album is just like even step above. So I feel people are gonna.
Yeah, it's a real step up. I remember seeing them opening for Svalbard actually at KK Steel Mill in Wolverhampton in the little room. It was the little room, so we had Svalbard, Mountain Caller, and Underdark, and that was a really fucking cool gig. Really like disparate lineup, but Mountain Caller, like I don't know about what it is about them. They're kind of heavier, a bit grungier, a bit more jam band kind of thing, almost live.
Yeah,
it's a really, really special experience.
I went to the Southampton date of that show, and it was a great lineup because every band had their like similarities, but also at the same time were like super different, which is the ingredients for a great show, really, isn't it? You know,
Definitely.
when everyone's
good old mixed bill.
Oh, absolutely. But yeah, Mountain Caller, they kind of because being like really into like my old, you know, like 70s prog and sort of psychedelic records and stuff, Mountain Caller definitely like have a lot of influences from that kind of world. So I'm very excited to be working that kind of album. Anything where I can sort of listen to something and be like, oh, that sounds like a little bit like Rush. Sick.
Yeah. Exactly. Now, last but not least, and you did kind of touch on this earlier, is the last bit I wanted to talk about is 2024 plans.
Yes.
Obviously, like with yourself, obviously doing Church Road and ETS, up to you what you want to talk about. But yeah, basically, obviously you've had killer years with both. You know, you've had some really cool shit coming out on Church Road. You've had a really good tour with ETS. That was a lot of fun, like to see.
Yeah.
And you kind of hinted there's new stuff in the works. It's maybe a bit more off the wall than maybe before. And we've got some, you know, Church Road, really cool Church Road releases coming up next year as well, like especially Mountain Caller. But yeah, what's coming in like next year that people get excited about?
Well, on the ETS front, because I've been sort of teasing it like anyway, and I think we're just kind of announcing it. I don't like. I think we're going to say we're going to go record. So basically, we're going to go record a new album starting early December. So like literally weeks away now from starting that. With the idea, there will be new music at some point next year, but the new album won't be out till 2025. So we're like very much ahead of the curve, as it were. But we just want to we want to get in there early, get everything nailed down, make sure like there's no rush, and just take our time with it. So really excited on that front. You know, I'm really keen to get back in the studio. Cliche thing to say every time, oh, it's the best one yet. But I mean, obviously that's how we feel. Otherwise, we wouldn't go and record another album. You know,
you're not going to go in there like going, it's a bit shit, isn't it, really, guys? It's all right.
Yeah, just be like, oh, but, you know, I suppose we should. It's not coming out to 2025. Better get in there now. So yeah, no, we're really, really excited about it. And yeah, I suppose it's hard because obviously it's all still so fresh, and I haven't really got the hindsight of listening back to it like properly recorded yet to kind of comment on what's different and how it, you know, differs from Conquering. But I feel it's very, anyone who likes Conquering is definitely going to like this. But I'd say it's even more well thought out, and just it goes different places. There's more light and shade. Because I think in hindsight, if I had anything sort of slightly negative to say about Conquering, was like it was like the heavy metal like green light got lit, and so it was just like just like. And this next album is going to be, you know, still pretty punishing in the heavy metal sense of the word, but I feel like this one's like, okay, cool, let's do that, but also what influences do we have over here and bring that all in. And yeah, I think it's made for an interesting record. And yeah, it's annoying that we have to wait so long for it to come out, but hey, such is life. Other than that, we'll be playing. It's going to be fairly quiet early next year because of the new album stuff. We got a cool show that we're announcing. We got a couple of cool shows that we're announcing soon for spring next year. There will be touring, but it's all kind of gearing up for kind of autumn next year. Is going to be like when we're going to be super busy and on the road the most. So yeah, in terms of Church Road, I think at this point the only thing I can say on this podcast is Mountain Cooler. Trying to think if we've announced anything else at this point. I don't believe we have. It's always a good. It's always a good test of my. I think I'm fairly sure I've been sending emails saying like, "Here's the first thing of 2024." I don't think I've sent a second one yet. So
no, thinking back to what I've had through from yourselves, it's I think the next releases I know of that you're doing, obviously Underdark this week, going off at the start of December, and then Mountain Caller in early 2024. So that's the first one, and that's a big one to start the year on.
Absolutely, and I definitely can say, because we're booked up till I believe midway next year. There's a lot of awesome stuff in the works. So
nice.
There's lots more to come, but it's going to be another exciting year. And like you said, looking back on this year as well, like ETS and Church Road wise, it's been pretty crazy, and feel very, very thankful for all of it. Really, it's always nice this time of year that you finally get, those sort of couple of weeks around Christmas where you can kind of sit and go like, oh yeah, shit, that was this year. That was really cool. In my head, the Gajira tour already feels like last year, and that was, I think, February this year, but it seems like forever ago. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that was like my third or fourth show of the year.
Yeah. It's like all those things kind of come back to you at this point of the year. You go like, oh yeah, that happened as well. And then of course the mammoth task of working out what albums came out this year versus the ones last year.
Yeah. That's sad as it is. That's what my spreadsheet is for.
Yeah, no, I need to get into it. I did start compiling like a Spotify like playlist kind of thing, but I lost track. I need to be more on it.
Hard to keep up with.
Yeah, definitely. You release every week, man. All about 10
absolutely, yeah.
Well, they're saying that thing you do on your socials where you like post like all the new music. I suppose that's you collating it all for your spreadsheet, but still though, to be making note of it is quite impressive.
Some of it comes from my spreadsheet, and I've got like a couple of other sheets that other people do that I could not do this without those sources. Like other release sheets, other like announcements, my own spreadsheet, my emails. It's like it's a bunch of different places all collated together.
Yeah,
and I just want to put it out there so that people can see. Like, part of it is like, I hate the idea of lording over like, oh, new music, you don't get to hear this. I just want to be like, no, here's all the really cool shit that's out. Here's what I'd pick. Go nuts.
Yeah. Well, it's good to have more people shouting it out because, like, as we all know, the volume of music that comes out every week is ridiculous. So you kind of need people to kind of like pick out the diamonds that might otherwise, get overlooked.
Yeah. So I try and curate it a bit. And then we have a week like the start of this month when we had like Dying Wish, Cauldron, Fuming Mouth, and a Sugar Horse, and a few others, all out in the same day.
Yeah, I know.
And I just feel like going, just listen to the whole lot, man. Like,
yeah, don't even bother picking. Just you need to make the time and
just point at one and hit play.
Yeah, figure it out. Yeah, it's wild, isn't it, man? I suppose. Sorry, something just came into my head. I was like, I suppose I should say because I dropped that new single from my, like, I guess you could call it solo thing called Smo the other day, called Real People. So there's new music for that coming. There's a second single very early next year. I haven't decided exactly what date yet, but
nice.
There'll be a lot more music from that next year as well.
So, and that was a really cool like surprise drop as well. I really enjoyed that. It was like a little bit new metal, a little bit like WWE entrance music in a really good way,
Yeah, mate, I'll take that as a compliment. Absolutely.
Yeah, just a ton of groove and a ton of attitude. It was really cool.
Cheers, man. I'm really, really glad you dug it, and thank you for the kind words on the Noizze roundup.
No, absolutely. Like, as soon as we saw it, we're like, putting that on.
Dude,
like, the amount the amount that you do for Noizze, and like it's always good to just like shout out things.
Yeah, well, likewise, man. We always super appreciate the coverage. So it's bloody lovely stuff. But yeah, there'll be more coming from that next year. Maybe some live shows. I don't really know yet. We'll see.
See how things pan out, really.
See how the year goes. Yeah, I have a habit of overcommitting myself and then finding out things, well, don't work out, but there's just not enough time in the day. It's like, so
no, I could play live, but then I've got all these tours, an entire album, a label to run.
Yeah, so I'll wait and see just to make sure I don't sort of overcook it. But hopefully, I'd very much like to fulfill my want to drop the guitar and just do vocals a bit.
Yeah, exactly. That'd be really cool to see. Well, that's everything. So thank you ever so much for your time. Thanks for coming on.
Absolute pleasure. Thanks for having me.
So I'm joined this evening by Nate from the incredible Manchester hardcore band Going Off. First of all, how are you doing today?
Yeah, pretty good. Thanks, man. You all right?
Well, like I said to you before, I'm obviously not sounding great, but fingers crossed, I'm going to be doing a lot better soon. And we've also got a very special guest joining us.
Yeah, this is Ralph.
How is he?
He's good. Yeah, he barely leaves my side, so
Bless him.
he'd just be scratching at the door if I didn't bring him. So
yeah, doesn't like being on his own then, or left out.
No.
It must have been interesting when he was on. Must have been interesting when you were on tour then, or are you not on the current run? Because I know there's a few.
I was on the run. So one of my really good friends, Kerry, she has several other pugs and a few other dogs. So he goes and plays with his mates for a few weeks. So he loves
Lovely. So, other than pugs, we are mainly here to talk about albums of like in kind of the wrap up of 2023. So, without further ado, what's been your favorite record from 2023?
So it's quite a recent one. So it's a band called Calling Hours. So they released a record called Say Less. So basically, I've been obsessed with the band Farside since I first heard them it was about 2004 when I picked up like the In-Flight program Revelation Records compilation. So he's like one of my favorite vocalists, and now he's back with a new band, which is basically the four members of Don't Sleep. So it's quite melodic. He's got like one of my favorite voices in music altogether. But yeah, it's a really, really sick melodic hardcore record.
Nice. It's been on my radar actually, and I can't say why because it's a name that I know. So it's definitely one that, although I haven't had time to check it out, I think it sounds right up my street as well. Actually.
Yeah, it's definitely worth checking out. It's just like it's so good to have Popeye back in a band, like singing like hardcore.
Yeah. Of the record, what would you say for people listening? Like, if they want to have a quick sample of what the record's about, what would be kind of like your pick for your favorite song on there or the best song on there?
Good question. I'm trying to blank on song names. I know there's a Replacements cover on there, Alex Chilton, which is absolutely banging. That closes the record, and I think the song is Cardboard and Aluminium is pretty good. I think that's the opener. But yeah, it's a very short like LP. Yeah, it's good. Highly recommended if you like melodic, like punk sort of stuff.
Nice. Yeah, I've been getting a lot more into that kind of like hardcore and melodic punk the last couple of years, really. So it definitely sounds like a bit my street at the very least. And like, there's been some really great short records out this year as well. So
it's good for my attention span.
Oh yeah, join the club. When I when I saw the New Year of the Knife record and it went 20 minutes. I was like, oh, perfect.
Hell yeah.
Okay. So that's like favorite record of this year. Now looking ahead, obviously there's always going to be the conversation around like who's the next, not necessarily the next big thing, but like who's a band that in 2024 you reckon deserve way more love than they're getting, or maybe that or maybe they are going to get like a really big break or a break in 2024.
Yeah, I'd definitely say No Relief from Brighton.
Yeah,
they're absolutely like smashing it at the moment. Like they've just played Madball a couple of days ago. We've got them in Manchester next week as part of the Eurofest weekend, and they're just I reckon they're set for very big things. They're so good.
Okay, what's the general vibe with those guys? Because obviously the Brighton scenes, especially like BN1, it's made a real name for itself. Really, like in the last couple of years, again, really.
Yeah, they're just straight up hardcore. They're
nice.
They're so good. It just like absolutely ticks all my boxes for hardcore. So
nice, just no frills, just like attitude, awesome. Okay, amazing. And in that case, last but not least, because like I say, it's going to be talking about your plans. So obviously at the start of the year, you put out What Makes You Tick, which fantastic record. Really been enjoying that a lot. Out through the lovely folk at Church Road. Sammy was on the other day, so always
cool.
Yeah, always great to see what those guys are cooking up because, you know, I think as a general rule, you can trust what they're putting out.
Yeah, absolutely. I've been a Church Road subscriber like since about pre-lockdown, so yeah, you always know it's going to be good stuff that's coming out.
Yeah, so have I actually. As soon as they launched it, I was like, okay, cool, because obviously they had the label before that I was subscribed to, and then as soon as they went out on their own, I was like, well, you know, I know that these two people know what they're talking about, you know. So as soon as they were ready and launching, I was straight in there. So not only did you put out an LP this year, you're releasing an EP in 10 days or so, I think.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, it comes out
December.
1st of December. Yeah, yeah. So it's just a bit of an experiment for us. So we're doing like we've experimented with like heavier tunings, and it's we're pretty proud of it. We've dropped
Nice.
I think 6 tracks from it already. We've got another 2 to come out on the 1st, and then we're looking forward to that coming out.
Nice. Yeah, because one thing I noticed is because I saw you guys opening for Slicer and Employed to Serve at in London the other week, and one thing I noticed is that you guys are much heavier live than on record, and I'm not sure what it is. Like it just seems much like heavier, a bit sludgier, and it was really fucking cool.
Oh, thanks.
So I'm very much interested in that EP that's on its way. But looking ahead, 2024, insofar as you can obviously talk to us about what's coming up for Going Off.
So we've got a few bits in the works. We've got another busy year ahead of us from the sounds of it. Got a few tours that should be announced over the next like few months. Hoping to hit mainland Europe as well, which will be cool. And then we're working on some new tracks as well, so they should be out hopefully some point next year.
Wow! So even more new music. You're really not stopping.
Always grinding.
Love it. I mean, that's the great thing, isn't it? Right? You know, when in a scene like hardcore, when you can just keep going, you can just keep releasing stuff because releases tend to be shorter. You know.
Yeah.
And I love that EPs are becoming a thing again.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Like you said before, it's good for the attention span when an album isn't too long, and an EP that's going to come on and I'm done inside of 20 minutes. I'm a big fan.
Even our album like clocks in pretty much 20 minutes. So.
Exactly. Yeah.
Short and sweet.
Exactly. I love stuff like that. Okay, that's really exciting. Mainland Europe, as well as new music, is big. And then obviously, like you say, got some other stuff cooking. Honestly, that's everything that we wanted to chat about today, unless you've got anything else that you wanted to pick up on.
Oh no, I don't think I've got anything else.
Wonderful. Well, thanks so much for coming on this evening.
No worries. Thanks for having us on.
Well, thank you ever so much for joining me. For those just tuning in, we are chatting to Claire, L, and Max of the incredible Mountain Caller. First of all, how are you?
Hello.
I'm good.
Yeah, really good.
Yeah,
awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Always good to hear. So we're doing this because, as I mentioned to you a minute ago, we're talking about it being nearly the end of the year somehow. Everyone's going to start talking about their favorite thing that released in 2023. So that is my first question, and obviously you don't have to all have the same answer, but my first question for you, getting straight into it, what's been your favorite thing to come out, your favorite album to come out in 2023?
Mine, I changed my answer to this today.
Nice.
So I like end of year album lists used to give me a lot of anxiety, and I used to meticulously put them together. Organizing them, moving things in and out. But since COVID, I've not really done one. But that kind of obsession has manifested in listening to our own record and writing our own record over the last couple of years, and a lot of hip hop. So my top artists of this year are Kendrick Lamar and Little Sims, but they've not had anything out this year. So I had a few options that I was thinking about. I quite like the Wallowing record. I think that's really good. I thought the Pupil Slicer one earlier this year was really good. But I was all ready to talk about a record by a band called Goat called Medicine, which is like this like psychedelic folk rock weird record with like Tony Iommi flute riffs.
Okay.
It's really good. It's kind of meditative, and it's I've been listening to it a lot recently. But I was a bit worried about kind of recency bias, so I sort of sat with it for a bit, and then it kind of hit me. And then I remembered Nature Mort by Big Brave from earlier
Yeah.
this year. And I went back and listened to it, and I think that's just pipped it. Just pipped Goat. So my record of the year is Nature Mort by Big Brave.
That's from February, right? I want to say.
February, which is why it took me a while to sort of remember it. But I remember playing it a lot when it first came out. And then we went to Roadburn and I saw them play it. I think they played it in full, actually. And I just remember watching it at Roadburn kind of with my eyes closed and almost having like this spiritual experience. You remember that, Max, right? You were there, and
I remember that. You said you had a little meditate during it, and yeah, I felt similar. Like they're such a drony, in a good way, like ethereal, meditative band. Like every time I've seen them, I've been kind of lulled into this just kind of lovely haze. I'd completely forgot that even came out this year. That's a great shout. Like the record's
really,
brilliant.
really good. I mean, I really enjoyed A Gaze Among Them, and I thought the stuff they did with the body was really good, the last record. And I feel like some of that folky stuff has crept into this record as well. Like you get a bit of like folky guitar. I think the lyric structure is a bit more folky as well. You get tinges of it. So I think it's a bit of a step forward with them, but you still get that like characteristic, meticulous stomp of doom, and sort of like the way they're so heavy but they're so sparse, they're so beautiful, the way they use reverb, it's all still there. Her voice is stunning. So yeah, that's my record of the year. It's a cracker. I've forgotten about that.
It's a great shout.
Yeah,
that is a great shout.
Really good. I like, I mean, I was to my wife's dismay, I put it on again today at lunchtime, like with my sound system, with my subwoofer, and had it up as much as I could possibly get it while she was on a meeting upstairs. But yeah, it's still as good as I remember. So yeah, big shout out to Big Brave.
So who wants to go next?
I can go next if you like. Yeah, now you've reminded me of that, Simo. That would definitely be sort of in my top list or whatever. That is a cracking record, and I love the folky bits that they bring in. Other records that I've liked, I haven't kept up with loads this year. I've been diving into a lot of sort of blind spots in my sort of like genres that I listen to. But I really like the Kristen Michael Hayter record. That is the new record from Kristen Hayter. He used to be Lingua Ignota, and she retired that persona this year. But the Reverend Kristen Michael Hayter record is so good. It's what is it? Saved? I think it's called Saved!
Yeah,
Exclamation mark. And
such an experience.
Such an experience as ever. I mean, I could bang on about that record. Like, I'm a mark for sort of old sounding shit. I love the way she incorporates like spiritual music into it, and just really sort of brings out different sides to older songs and all that. I love the Periphery record as well. They're just one of my favorite bands, so they'll always like their records will always be in my favorites list, I think. But the record I picked, my absolute favorite, is called The Record, and it's by Boy Genius.
Yep.
Who
Great pick.
It's so good. For those that don't know, it's Phoebe Bridgers, Julian Baker, and Lucy Dacus, who are all singer-songwriters. And I was a fan of them before they became Boy Genius, and I remember it being announced that they were going to do like a band together, and I was just like, that just makes perfect sense. Like it, and yeah, the EP came out and it was great. They all complement each other so well, but the record is a huge step up from the EP in my opinion. And since it came out, it's just been on constant rotation. Like it's really it's them coming into like really coming into their own as a group. They've really grown as collaborators. I feel like they all play to each other's strengths, like play to their own strengths, but they kind of drag each other in different directions as well. I hear Phoebe Bridgers doing slightly different vocal things to what she would normally do in her solo project, and ditto with Julian Baker and Lucy Dacus. Um, they all have like star moments on the record. I think where it really shines is lyrically. Like a lot of the things that really stand out to me are certain lyrics, like in a Leonard Cohen, the song Leonard Cohen, where she says, "I might like you less now that you know me so well," which is just a cracking lyric. She says it twice in the song to just be like, "I'm just going to let you take in how good a line that was." And I'm not even totally sure I understand what it means. I might like you less now that you know me so well. The logistics of it are hard to square in my head, but it just oozes charisma, and wit as all of their lyrics do. And then Julian Baker just has a voice which makes me melt. I think most of all on the song "Call About It," which is I think that's my favorite song on the record. It's kind of about being with someone that you have feelings for but doesn't return them, and it's about how bittersweet that is. Like I find that a really addictive feeling personally. Just wanting to be with that person, but it kind of being a bit painful being around them because you have that unrequited feelings. Like, and songs that can capture things like that just really such what's the one I'm looking for? Such perfect examples of the human experience, such complex things that can just nail that with the music and with the lyrics is just like it's one of the best things music can do, in my opinion. So that in particular is a real standout. And then Not Strong Enough, which is the lead single, is just a summary banger. That's going to be on my summer playlist forever. So yeah, it's
Not to
fantastic.
Sheryl Crow, Max.
Huh?
Is that one not strong enough as a nod to Sheryl Crow?
It is, yeah.
That's
It's
what I
like
heard.
not strong enough to be your man is the
Yeah.
line. Like is a kind of as a nod to Sheryl Crow. It's a wicked song. Wicked song. It's a great album. It was produced by Catherine Marks, who's an absolute legend as well. I think she's done Wolf Alice, and she produced A Black Mile to the Surface by Manchester Orchestra. And again, she just makes so much sense to produce that band. The production on it is beautiful. So yeah, that's my album. That's my pick.
Two really different, really interesting picks there, actually.
Yeah, very different. We are an eclectic bunch,
which is great. And
I love how you went from Kristen Hayter to Boy Genius.
I know.
In one fell swoop.
Yeah, I suppose I did.
Yeah. So to follow that beautiful verbal essay, that thoughtful essay of Max's, something completely different. So I haven't been great at keeping up with the records coming out this year either. I've been listening to a lot of Motorpsycho and Leprous and things of that nature. Also a lot of hip hop like Simo. But the album that I've picked is Urne's A Feast on Sorrow. I think it's an incredibly beautiful album, even though it's about a lot of really brutal personal strife. And it goes to, some incredibly dark places. It's sort of helping to process some very dark and bleak feelings, but still, I think it manages to somehow carve some beauty out of that. And I think it's a magnificent record. And I also think, remarkably, it's really fun, even though it's dark as all hell. Every song comes on and I just think, oh, I really love this one. Oh, I really love this one. And I just want to keep listening to it in order, on shuffle, on vinyl. The beautiful vinyl. I don't know if you've got this, Will.
I haven't yet.
Amazing double album with them. And I chose the vinyl that sort of looks like the rolling tides, that's blue and white and black in this amazing pattern. It's absolutely glorious, and it's such a joy to hold and put on and everything. But I've always really enjoyed Urne's sort of blending of technical and classic metal. And I think that with a lot of super technical metal, you can end up making things sound a little bit soulless, like really kind of lacking in a bit of heart and a bit of emotion. But because of who they are, how they write, and this sort of classic influence, they never do that for me. I mean, one of the reasons that I really love the way that Simo plays guitar is because it's so melodic, it's so thoughtful. Her solos you can just sing along to, as we all often do at band practice, which is definitely one of her favorite things.
Meow them at me mostly.
Yes. As cats. And I think that Angus's guitar playing goes to those same kind of places, completely different guitarists, completely different style, but still loads of stuff that I could sing to him as a cat. And I probably will on tour in December, so he can look forward to that. They're really unafraid of long instrumental intros, long instrumental sections, sometimes completely instrumental songs. And obviously, we love that. It makes you think differently about how you're writing, what you're playing, the roles of the instruments involved. And you can break out of the way that you think about song structure, I think, just because of the absence of lyrics. I think it's an album with some of the most wonderful chord sequences, and I'm a real sucker for an amazing chord sequence and an amazing cadence. And what they've written, I think, is full of delightful surprises and just I'm really struggling to articulate it, but such delicious and interesting things. And they go from these sort of filthy harmonic minor riffs, like at the beginning of The Burden, through to these really unexpected sequences, like where The Long Goodbye melds into Where Do the Memories Go, and the solo on that's amazing, by the way. So yeah, I think it's magnificent. It sounds fantastic as well. I really enjoy Joe's bass sound. It's very different to my personal taste for myself. Obviously, he plays with his fingers. He's got a completely different bass. But we actually, I think, both grew up loving Dave Ellefson's bass playing and bass sound. And I think that even though he sounds different to that, he's still got this sort of rumbling beast type sound in the depths there with what he's playing, and I really enjoy it. And he's a phenomenal bassist, but he still will sort of sit back in the mix, I think, most of the time. So yeah, I think it's a masterful record. I love it.
Yeah, it is. I remember getting that, and getting the first hearing that and going, this is. And I don't want this. My initial thought was like, because the first record has all of this kind of like brightness and color to it, and it's so like joyous. And this isn't a joyous record at all. You know, in the themes that it tackles, it goes to some, like you say, some really brutal places. But it's brilliant. It's absolutely, fully agree on that Urne record. That's a fantastic album.
Yeah. I think that they won't record. It's one of the best I've heard in years and years and years. It's great. What a great shout out.
Yeah, absolutely. I had a bit of an inkling that you were going to pick that. So yeah, I didn't bring it up, but that could well have been like my pick as well, because yeah, it is. I mean, I think you absolutely did it justice, El. It's so brilliant. I've spoken to Joe quite a lot about the creative process of it, and he was so that he just really wanted to push the whole band so hard, and it really shows. Yeah, it's incredible.
Yeah, it's a real leap, isn't it, on what was already impressive, like to what they've then put out is just incredible. So what I'd really like to do now, like 3 really different picks there, which is really cool, and some great like reasoning as well, really interesting hearing about why. But the next thing I wanted to ask is, as I mentioned, it's going to be bands that either you reckon are poised for like a breakout 2024, or are going to, or basically deserve a lot more attention than they're currently getting, that you have listened to and gone, these guys are absolutely sensational, and I really do think they're being overlooked. So happy to open the floor to whatever picks you have.
Go on,
Simo.
No, you go. I'm still mulling it over.
Okay. A couple of things spring to mind from having seen these bands play live. Recently, I really enjoyed Longheads. We got to do a couple of shows with them on our mini King Buffalo tour. And I really, really enjoyed their music. I really dug it. They've got some killer riffs. And I love their sound. It was really beefy. It was really satisfying. They go on some really interesting journeys, and they're super nice guys to boot. They were really nice to hang out with, really lovely, really genuine. So yeah, I thought they were brilliant. And earlier, I think this year, we played alongside Law of the Woodman, who were just fantastic. Their guitarist does a lot of very intricate two-handed finger picking and tapping and other kinds of techniques, but it's not sort of skill for skill's sake. I thought it was really, well crafted music, and I really enjoyed watching them from start to finish. The whole band's great. You can come back to me for this, but I would just like to go slightly off piste and mention the band that I think is the most overlooked band of all time. And I look forward to an opportunity to talk about this whenever I can and wang on about it. And it's Hearts Under Fire, who are the greatest pop punk band, or heavy pop punk band that ever existed. And I really hope they get back together one day, because they were an all-female band just a little bit too early for anyone to treat them with the respect that a band of that caliber should have been treated with. They were sort of dismissed because of their sex, of their gender identity, all too often, I think, and still crafted one of my all-time favorite EPs and one of my all-time favorite albums. And I will die on this hill.
Amazing. Throwback pick as well. They might not have a great 2024, but if they did come back, you would.
I would be there, front row. Yeah.
Amazing.
I don't think I have anything to add to that list. Like I say, the obsession over the last couple of years has just been this record, getting it written. which has been challenging given COVID and everything, getting it polished and then listening back to various mixes. It's been sort of all consuming. So yeah, I think ours is I would say our record, but yeah, Elle's picks were great.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, ours, like, we've worked very hard on it, so listen to it, please. And I think it's very good, like, in my own personal opinion. But yeah, I've got a couple who I'm thinking of. Just before we started, it occurred to me that Carnival are likely to be releasing an album next year, which is their first in, I think, 10 years. They're like an Australian prog slash metal band, um, who are incredibly underrated in my opinion. They deserve to be, up there with, maybe not just below the Tools, I imagine. No one's up there with Tool, but up there with the Meshuggahs, I'd say, and the Peripheries. But they don't get those kind of props. And I think for tech and progressive metal, they do stuff with rhythms and with harmony and in the way they experiment with their instrumentation that no one else does. Like on their last album, Asymmetry, where they played literally with the guitars being asymmetrical, and there was a lot of improvisation on that record, and it was a really dirty sounding album. No one in the progressive sphere is really doing that. And the way they write drums is just so unique. So they really deserve much more respect, in my opinion. And yeah, they released a single in, I think, 2 years ago. But I think that the album is due to come next year. I can't remember why I think that, but I'm really looking forward to that because people love Sound Awake. Like that's the album most people go to, but I actually prefer Asymmetry, which didn't seem to be as well received. But I think that's a absolutely incredible album. It's up there with my absolute favorites. So I'm really excited to see them back, because yeah, there's no one else really like them on Earth, and they're just fucking great. And the other pick, kind of similar to Els, because the band I think is the most underrated ever is Motorpsycho, Norwegian psych prog rock legends, and they release an album almost every year. So I think it's safe to say that they will release one next year. I think I saw some studio pics of them the other day. But yeah, their album from a few years ago, The All Is One, I think is probably my album of the decade so far, and it's probably in my top 10 albums ever. Like it's an absolute masterpiece, as is The Tower, as is Little Lucid Moments, as is Phanerothyme, like as is Heavy Metal Fruit. Like, and these are long albums. They release like a double album every year, and it's more often than not incredible. Like, it's hour plus albums that I just don't get bored of at all. Like, and I don't know how they do it. They seem to just sort of flop it out without it being a big deal at all. And yeah, they are tiny. I mean, no one really knows who they are, especially over here. In Norway, I think they're pretty big. I think they've won, the equivalent of Norwegian Grammys and stuff like that. But outside of Norway, like no one really knows about them. But they absolutely should. They play like old style prog nowadays, and I'd have it above. I mean, I'd have the All Is One above anything Rush do. Like, and I fucking love Rush. Like, those classic prog records, I don't think any of them are as good as what Motorpsycho do. So yeah, that's my kind of underrated shout.
It's a huge shout.
I agree with all of that. I had no idea when I started listening to Motorpsycho that they weren't, a huge band, and the All Is One, I feel the same way about it as you, Maxwell.
Well, last but not least, and you've mentioned already, is we're going to talk 2024 for yourselves. So, as you've already said, you do have an album coming out on the 26th, my brain wants to say, January.
Yes.
Obviously, really excited about that. And to not be too much of that guy, but as a, obviously being as a journalist, having heard it, and having obviously seen your Arctangent this year, where you entirely played New Souls.
Yeah.
I think people have a lot to be rightly excited about.
Thanks very much. Thank you. We're super proud of it. We really poured our hearts and souls into it, and really, I think, drove ourselves to be who we are, but just nudge ourselves to that next level with our writing. I think it sounds great, and obviously most creative people are very self-critical, and I certainly am, and I've listened to the record just so many times, and I'm still so stoked with the production and all the decisions that we've made. And that's a really nice feeling to have, to be able to back it yourself. Let's just hope that everyone else feels the same way as you do, Will.
Yeah, I feel similarly. Elle, like, yeah, I still listen to it all the time, just for fun, really, because I enjoy it. Like, I do think that's good when people make stuff that they themselves want to hear. Like, I think you can tell. I think the passion that we have for what we do, I think that comes through. I think it's like a real strength for us. So yeah, we're so stoked about this album. Like, I mean, yeah, we've put so much into it. The last few years, I mean, yeah, we wrote a lot of it in COVID, and even outside of that, like the last few years have been tumultuous for all of us. So kind of having it to work on has been a real, I don't know, it's been a real comfort. It's been a real kind of rock, and it's been something we can kind of express what we're going through. Like, yeah, it's been a vehicle for that, and something that we can process things through, which is, I mean, what a gift, really, like, to have that, to be able to do that. So yeah, I hope people like it. I personally, I'm really proud of it, whether or not it bombs. So yeah.
Not sure there's much danger of that.
I remember just being like, because it's a slightly, it's still very mountain caller, but it's a slight change. It's a slight change in direction. And we were writing pretty much right up until the last minute with it,
Yeah.
And then I remember we got a set of bounces from Joe Clayton from Pine, who did the recording and mixing for us, and he gave us some bounces, and we listened to it and for the first time end to end through this, like, we hooked it up to a TV and we listened to it through these awful TV speakers for the first time.
Yeah.
And I think, do you remember? And for me, that was when it hit, and I was like, despite the speakers, despite the the setup we've got here, I think we've got something pretty good. It was the first time I went, oh, okay, after all the writing, and you sort of were able to pull yourself out of it and put yourself in front of it. And since then, it's just like you, I've kept listening to it a lot, and I'm really, really proud of it.
I forgot all about that, man. That was such a nice moment, listening to it in the Airbnb. And I was really stoked with it. I do remember listening to it in your car on the way home from the studio, and the bass was so loud. It was like an
As it should be.
mix. and the guitars sounded like they were being played by tiny cricket people. The bass was just like shaking the car panels and all the rest of it.
Clear the M1 just by vibration.
Yeah.
Yeah, sadly that mix didn't make it through to the record.
But it's a fun one you've got anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, obviously, so it's an amazing achievement because it obviously, it expands on that conceptual sort of narrative you've been telling for the protagonist. And there's so much, lore in there that people are going to be delving into. I can only imagine that you've probably got similarly grand plans for the rest of the year in terms of like getting it out on stage.
Yeah, I mean we're blessed to be working with Tyler Hodges, who's recently moved to Atonal, which we're really stoked about, helping steer the ship and plan out the year with us. And similarly amazing to be working with Sammy and Justine, and giving the record its best chance, putting it around as much as we can, hoping to do plenty of shows, some festivals. It's going to be a good one. I cannot wait to just hold it in my hands. And I'm really hoping we can get some prints of the artwork because Hannah Templar has absolutely outdone herself.
Yeah.
On this sleeve. So fingers crossed for some big things.
Yeah, I'm very much excited to get my hands on that on the vinyl, especially because obviously, Chronicle 1 looked incredible. The EP looked incredible, and I'm really excited to see, because I've only seen it in sort of the small form, for now, in sort of the little kind of icon going, hey, this is a really tiny little bit on the stream of it. So I'm excited to see the full thing, and hopefully there are some nice big prints because like artwork like that deserves it.
Yeah, agreed. I think it's really fun to have artwork. When you look at it, you discover a new thing every time you pick it up, a new little detail here and there. Those are my favorite types of sleeve.
Well, that's absolutely everything. Thank you again for being so thoughtful and considered and giving so much of your time this evening. It's been a real joy.
No problem. Thanks for having us on. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you so much.